Hey guys, Mike Donehy here, author of Finding God's Life for My Will, and coming at you from my office in my house here in Nashville. I did this lovely wallpaper, as you can see. It was horrible. Don't ever do your own wallpaper. And this week is Easter week, and it's been a little bit crazy, right? And I'd love just to take a second and meditate on Good Friday. Good Friday's always intrigued me because I thought, wasn't Good Friday the worst Friday? Right? It's the worst, most horrific day in human history that the innocent, blameless Son of God would suffer a criminal's death for a bunch of people who don't deserve it. And yet we're like, Good Friday. Well, Good Friday only became Good Friday in light of Sunday, right? And I think about our moment now, quarantining across the world, and we're in a worst Friday moment, and we're waiting for the Sunday. And there's a couple things I want to say about that. Number one, I love Good Friday because Jesus himself cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Which shows me there is a way to question God in a way that's not sinful, because Jesus was without sin, right? And he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's only doing what the Psalms, he's echoing a Psalm, that there's a way to just pour our hearts out, Psalm 62 says, before the Lord in a way that honors God. He goes, it's almost like there's got to be a way we can question God where he goes, thank you for coming to me with that and not going all over the place with it. So Good Friday tells me there's an honoring way to question God. Good Friday also tells me that sometimes I'm going to have to wait longer than I want to for Sunday. Because have you ever thought about why didn't Jesus just die on Friday and then rise on Saturday? I know it was the Sabbath, and so there was, Jewish laws in play. But apart from that, I feel like, the disciples are going crazy on Saturday. And they're like, when are you going to show up, God? And that tells me that sometimes Good Friday is going to stay the worst Friday for longer than I think is necessary. I don't like the Saturdays. I don't like the day between the death and the resurrection, the waiting period, the time of no answers and just lingering questions. And yet that Saturday, God lets happen and he lets it ride. And we're kind of in that moment. We're waiting. But Good Friday, the third thing I love about Good Friday is it tells me that God is, for lack of better words, hell-bent on redeeming the ugliest things that take place, right? He went into hell. He descended into hell on that Saturday. And that tells me that God is always weaving art out of the chaos. He's always weaving redemption out of the ugly things we hand him. I've said this before, but it's almost like when we look at the canvas of our lives and we start making these strokes, these accidental strokes, God looks at us like Bob Ross and he goes, hey, there's no mistakes here, just happy little accidents. Because instead of trying to erase that mistake, let me get my hands on it, and all of a sudden that's a happy little tree, or it's a happy little squirrel. In other words, these moments in our lives, these Friday moments that start as worst Fridays, when God starts weaving his grace around it, the worst Fridays become the good Fridays because of Sunday. And yeah, Paul says that, Ephesians 2:10, that we are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which he has prepared in advance for us that we may walk in them. So in other words, let's hand our canvases to God with all the scratches of the worst Fridays and all the ugliness that we've put on it and other people have put on it and the world has put on it, and let's hand it to him and trust that it might take longer than we want. It might take a whole Saturday, but that God is going to weave a redemption, resurrection Sunday out of our worst Fridays. And in light of that, even our worst Fridays might become our Good Fridays. A little just personal story to sum it up. You see this scar? Maybe you can see it. Can you see it? This is one of what started as a worst Friday. When I was in high school, I got thrown out of a car, broke my back in 2 places, broke my face, ripped my ear off, 96 stitches to put my ear back on. All the guys are like, awesome. All the girls are like, yeah. Flatlined 5 times on the way to the hospital. And I remember laying on my back. This was my senior year of high school, just mad at God. Well, I should have been grateful to be alive because the doctor said, for all intents and purposes, I should have been dead, but I didn't die. And laying on my back for months, I started so mad at God. How could you do this to me? Let this happen to me my senior year. I'm missing my senior year. Oh, it's the worst Friday I've ever been through. And yet, laying on my back is the first time I asked for a guitar. And so, laying on my back, my senior year of high school, was the first time I started learning how to play one of these. And it would be years later that I would write, let me see redemption win. Let me know the struggle ends. You can mend a heart that's free and torn. I wanna know a song can rise from the ashes of a broken life, and all that's dead inside can be reborn. 'Cause I'm warm. So I can sing that now because that actually happened to me. A song rose from the ashes of my broken life. And I just want to encourage you that this Good Friday, he is still doing that. He is still taking the worst moments of our life and he's weaving a redemption story out of them. So I hope you can pray. Or maybe all you can do is honestly pray, I still am waiting to know a song can rise from the ashes of a broken life. But if it's any encouragement, that is what happened to me. And I pray that it's what God would do with your story as well. So happy Easter, everybody.